Welcome back. So in this video we will learn about prepared statements and parameterized queries in PDO. So first of all, let's copy all the code from fetchmodes.php and we will paste this code inside a new file and save this file as prepared.php. So why do we require prepared statements although we have a method query to execute the queries? The reason is very simple. First of all, the query function is actually a little bit insecure against SQL injections, and the other reason is that the prepared statements are much more faster. So how can we say that query function is insecure? So for that, let's suppose that there is a where clause in this query, where, and that where clause is filtering the students by ID. So and suppose that this ID is coming from the user and the user can type anything. So instead of typing the ID, user can type something like this as well: delete from students where ID equals 2. Now the user has actually injected a whole new query inside the value of ID. So SQL server will not be able to differentiate this new query from the value. So it will execute this new query and this one as well. So in this case, the two queries will be executed. The first one will select the user having the ID of 1, and the second one will delete the student actually. So the second one will actually delete a student which have the ID of 2. So to show you that, we will have to actually open this prepared.php in the browser. So let's go to the browser and open prepared.php, and now you can see it is selecting the student which have ID of 1, and it should also delete the student with ID 2. So to verify that, let's go to phpMyAdmin and select our database PDO, and now let's select this students table. Now you can see there were 2 records in this table, but now there is only 1. That's because of the injected SQL code. You can see here this code has deleted the student with ID 2. So how can we prevent that? We can use a method called prepare and this method will actually not execute this query. This method will first of all actually prepare the query, and then instead of providing the value directly inside the query, we can do something like this. We can provide the placeholders for the values. So I'm saying the value of ID is inside this ID :ID placeholder. So bind this as a parameter to the query. So let's do that. So we will execute, actually let's change this result variable to statement, because prepare function actually does not return the result set, it will actually return the statement. So statement, and let's copy this and let's replace this result variable by statement and statement here as well. So now we will call a function on this statement object, and this function will actually bind the value of this parameter or this placeholder. So this function is called bind param, and it will take three parameters. The first one will be the placeholder which we want to replace with the value, so copy and paste that placeholder. And the second will be the variable that will contain the value for this placeholder. So let's create a variable, so let's name it as id, and id equals to 1, and save it. Now let's pass this variable id, and it will take one more parameter, and this is actually the type of this value. So we are simply saying that id should be of type whatever we provide here. So PDO, scope resolution operator, and after that we will type param underscore int. We are simply saying that we expect this id to be integer, and if this id is not integer, the query will not execute. So simple enough. So now let's execute this statement. So to do that, we will have to call a function. We'll call a function execute, on this statement, and this will actually execute this query after binding this parameter. So now let's go ahead and refresh the page and see what happens. You can see it is returning the student with id 1. So let's change the id to 2, and let's see. Oops, it's returning nothing. Oh, actually there is no student with the id of 2. So let's insert a student with id 2. So 2 and share Ali 1 2 1 2 1 2 1. So let's click this go button, and now we have 2 records in our table. So now if I refresh, now you can see I am getting the student with the id of 2, share Ali 1 2 1 2 1 2 1. So now let's see what happens if I pass a malicious query. So id is 2 and semicolon delete from students where id equals 1. Now let's see what happens if I execute this query. Now it should not execute this delete query. So let's see. So if I refresh it and I go to the database, and now you can see it has not deleted the record Basit Altaf, which has the id of 1, although I had passed the delete query inside that query, but it has actually escaped this query. It has ignored it, but it has executed this query, which is it has selected the user with id 2, but it has not deleted the user with id 1. Sorry, not the user, the student actually. So that's how prepared statements work.